It is. Oh, we're live.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Coach Steve, coming back to you live on this beautiful Thursday here to talk about Week 8 starts and sits. It's going to be an interesting show, guys. We got a lot of things going on our end here. Coach John is on the IR tonight because he can't seem to get his mic to work. Maybe he makes a guest appearance. We'll see. Coach Jibbs got a lot of things going on his end, but he's here. What's going on, Coach Jibbs?
Well, I'm struggling right now. I'm going to try to make it the most quietest podcast in my second space. But let's get through this episode, and hopefully we get a good game tonight.
Absolutely. Finally, Ravens versus the Bucks. That's going to be an interesting game. Hopefully the Bucks show up for this evening game. So I'm very excited for that. But have no fear. We're going to have a lot of things to talk about tonight. We even have Coach John's players to talk about as well. So we'll go through that. But before we get to anything else today, let's get through the news today, guys. All right, guys. So some things dropped after we got off our podcast on Monday night. James Robinson to the New York Jets. Now, you guys already heard my takes on this, but Jibbs, is there anything you wanted to mention on James Robinson to the Jets?
I do like the move. It's just kind of sad that they only could get a fourth rounder. It definitely helps out ETN's rest of season output. But I think it's going to be a slow coming for James Robinson and Jets. It's going to be like a murky situation. I kind of don't like when players get traded because you kind of lose that player for a week. Not like James Robinson has been doing anything, but hopefully it's just not a full-blown committee because that will kind of suck.
Yeah, that definitely would suck. I mean, we'd hope that he takes the bulk of the rushing shares at least. You know, I mentioned on the extra added part of the Monday show, but he should play in this game here. Who knows how much? I don't know if it's, we saw what Christian McCaffrey was able to do in a short time frame. It's a tough matchup, but he probably has a couple more days of practice at least, which is good. So we'll see how much he actually plays. Probably wouldn't start him unless you really are desperate for a flex option. But some more trades went down this week. Kadarius Toney to the Kansas City Chiefs for a 3rd and 6th round pick. Jibbs, do you like this? Do you think Kadarius Toney has fantasy value now?
He has more value than he did with the Giants, to tell you that much. But it's going to be weird, though, because we've been picking hairs over this whole fantasy season of MVS Juju and the other ancillary pieces for the Kansas City Chiefs. And now you're getting a playmaker like Toney in there. So, like, it could be just all the same thing. But I think Toney could definitely have, like, even more explosive weeks than he did with Daniel Jones and the Giants.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he didn't even play with Daniel Jones and the Giants this year, basically. So it's definitely, hopefully, a step up. Well, he played like one game, but hopefully
I was referencing like last year. It's like 89-yard game. I think he could have like.
That might have been Mike. That actually might have even been Mike Lennon. No.
Oh, I don't know.
Might have been even Mike Lennon. But you're right. You're absolutely right. It's an improvement at quarterback here. It's interesting for the trade because I felt like they had a lot of players at wide receiver already. They had Mecole, they have Juju, MVS, Sky Moore. They spent a high second round pick on. So yeah, Justin Watson. I thought Justin Watson's a good fifth player, but I don't know if they're bringing him in as a return man or they actually really want him to be a part of this offense here. It definitely doesn't bode well for somebody on this team. And I feel like it's got to be Sky Moore because Sky Moore could have done that, return ability, but he has not really looked good. He's definitely dealt with, not injuries, but fumbling his end here, just mental mistakes. So maybe that's some concern for that. Wouldn't freak out just yet. I mean, Kadarius Toney isn't somebody who's going to just come in and just to dominate targets or anything like that. Who knows if he even plays this year? Again, if people are in my leagues are just whipping to pick him up, but I don't know if he's going to be someone that's going to even be considered a consistent fantasy value week in and week out. but you never know. But definitely not someone I'm actively trying to go throw my team by dropping a quality bench piece. Some other things, Mac Jones and Andy Dalton are expected to start this weekend here. Kerryon Williams and Van Jefferson for the Los Angeles Rams are designated to return from IR. More than likely, Van Jefferson is back this weekend. Kerryon Williams probably won't be back for another week, but he's going to be probably practicing finally, which is great. And of course, some players who did not practice this Thursday are Adam Trotman, Michael Thomas, and Jarvis Landy. I wrote on there. Again, definitely we'll talk more about some players who will be playing, hopefully, for their spots. Jahan Dotson, Alan Lazard, Chuba Hubbard, Ezekiel Elliott, which if you're having Zeke on your team, it's a really, really, really good chance that he does not play this week. So keep that in mind. And of course, big news, Jibs, just an hour ago, Ja'Marr Chase out. I'm pretty sure at this point, 4 to 6 weeks. He's likely going to go on the IR, which will put him out minimum 4 weeks. What does this do for this Cincinnati Bengals offense?
Tyler Boyd instantly comes in that wide receiver 2 conversation. If he's on your waivers, still pick him up. I even think Hayden Hurst definitely be in that low-end tight end 1 conversation for the remainder of the season. So it looks good for those 2 pieces. Maybe Joe Mixon could get a little bit more run since they lost their top dog. But also, like, it may kind of impact Burrow if you think about it. If you're losing your top receiver like that, I know he has the weapons to back it up, but I don't think like he's gonna have these 500 passing yard upside anymore. But yeah, it might hurt Burrow a little bit. But that's what I think about the Bengals offense.
Yeah, I'm actually looking real quick to see who they play over the next 4 weeks. So they have obviously the Browns and the Panthers, and then they have a bye week, and then they have the Steelers and Titans. So I mean, very favorable matchups, but yeah, I mean, Ja'Marr Chase is definitely a difference maker for a team overall. Joe Burrow should maybe see a slight dip in maybe consistency in his play, but he still has. That's why the Bengals are great. They still have 2 really good wide receivers there. Higgins is a lock and loaded wide receiver 1. Jibs just mentioned Tyler Boyd, who should be really good as a probably mid-range wide receiver 2 now at this point. And Hayden Hurst, yeah, he has value for sure. He's had value all season. He probably should be even definitely considered as a top 10 tight end right now. And again, there's really no one else that would really step up. I mean, the next best wide receiver as the wide receiver 4 has been Mike Thomas. He has 8 targets on the season. Clearly, don't use anyone outside the top 3. He'd probably be the next man up. If you want to, in deeper man leagues, pick him up because you never know. This offense loves to throw the ball. But definitely a major blow. You're going to just have to hold on and hope that he's okay in those 4 weeks. Definitely don't like to see hip injuries midseason. So, but that's the news. It's not great news this week, but it's some news. So, all right, let's get into the fun of our today's show, guys. Starts and sits. If you have any questions, please throw them in the chat if you have any, and we'll answer them, of course. We'll start with the quarterbacks today. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, Jibs. Let's talk about last week. How'd you think you did last week?
I keep a spreadsheet now, and I did terrible. I think it's like a little bit less than like 50%.
Right. Well, again, this is based off what I'm seeing when I do my little thing. But so on the wrong week here. So week 7 for me, I went 5-6. I missed one guy because Russell Wilson did not play. Jimmy G did pretty well. TJ Hawkinson didn't. Greg Dulcich did good. Najee Harris did not, and so did Drake London did not do well. So I caught those calls really well. You Jibs, you went 6-6 on the week. You got Derek Carr, Davis Mills as QB sleeper and bust. Juwan Johnson and Robert Tonyan as sleeper tight end and sleeper bust. You got Brandon Ayuk as a wide receiver sleeper who did very well. James Robinson as definitely a RB bust who did not barely play in this game. So kudos to you on that, my friend. And then Coach John did not have a great week. He needs to rest up and get that IR going. 4-8 on the week. He caught Tony Pollard right with a nice sleeper. Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a bust. Chris Olave as a sleeper. As you guys battled that one, he ended up having a good game. And Hayden Hurst is a nice sleeper this week. So, yeah, definitely not our best week. But, again, that's why we can learn and we live from it. So, we got Cameron in the chat. Cameron, what's going on? Is Dawson Knox even startable? I drafted him ahead of David Njoku, and I've been using David Njoku pretty much all season. A bum to see him set sideline for a bit. Yeah, I mean, I get Jibs. If you want to take this one first.
Anybody's startable, to be honest. But like, I do get your concerns with him because it's literally boom or bust. You probably could like get a sleeper that we're probably gonna talk about and probably plug and play and use it and be more usable. But like, I kind of do feel you though losing Ninjoku because I've been one of those guys who's been riding on Ninjoku for the whole season, and it's kind of sad losing him for 5 weeks. So um, I wouldn't start him to be honest, but I know you're playing in a 16-man league, and there's a lot less pieces that are on that waiver wire. So
Yeah, I mean, in the league that you're in, Cameron, definitely not terrible. Obviously, I mean, you're gonna have to start him. He's putting up 5 or 6 points. Not terrible. It's not what you want, and he always has a touchdown coming maybe every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, in like let's say in a normal 10 to 12 man league, he's probably definitely not startable right now. He probably shouldn't even be on anyone's rosters just because he's not being efficient enough. But in that deeper man league, he definitely gives you some kind of consistent floor of 5 and 6 points most weeks. Again, it's the tight end position is very rare to find a guy who's going to give you 15 plus each and every single week. They're going to have a lot of up and downs outside of the top 6 tight ends, probably. Even then, it's a little sketchy. So, he's a boom or bust tight end and hope for some good weeks. But he's going to give you 5 or 6 points most weeks at least, which is like 3 catches for 30, 40 yards. So you really can't beat that, I guess. But it's definitely not the most luxurious position of a player to start. So, all right. So back to these starts and sits quarterbacks here. Starting off, Jibs, what do you got for our QB sleeper this week?
oh Jesus, changing up the format on me.
I told you guys last week we're gonna mix it up this week. We're gonna switch it from the bottom to the top.
Oh, you want a sleeper?
Sleeper QB.
I'll go with Derek Carr. Saints secondary has been reeling over the last few weeks. That's 3 weeks time frame. Saints have allowed 7 passing touchdowns. QBs are averaging 257 passing yards against them. Given the fact that some of Derek Carr's weapons are becoming healthy, he's got Waller with a limited practice. I know Hunter Renfro is practicing limited. So, did you hear the news on Adams? Missed practice 2 days in a row.
Adams. Devontae Adams? Oh, he's sick. He's sick. That's what
He's
it is.
sick? Oh, okay. Well, hopefully he suits up.
I
But
heard illness. So
regardless, I think this is going to be like a high-scoring game. I think Derek Carr could be on track to get 2 passing touchdowns and definitely beat his projection for this week. So I'm optimistic Derek Carr has a good game.
all right. I don't hate it. I think I like Derek Carr this week too. I mean, we saw what the Cardinals did last week to the Saints offense there was pretty bad. They did a lot of great work there. On my end, my QB sleeper this week, I went with Andy Dalton. As assumed that he's starting at this point. Again, the Raiders, well, I guess same matchup. Yeah, funny enough. If you think they're going to be scoring points, it's got to be happening on the other side of the ball too. So the Raiders allow the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season with 23.5 points per game. In 6 games this season, the Raiders have played, they've allowed a QB1 in every single game. Every single game. That's a top 12 quarterback. We saw this passing offense kind of look better with Andy Dalton at QB at this point, and I expect it to continue this way. I mean, the Cardinals offense was kind of stingy with the secondary. They were pretty tough, but this Raiders offense is not great at all. So I'm rolling Andy Dalton out this week. If you have not a top tier quarterback this week, I like Andy Dalton a lot to produce a QB1 performance this week. So let me see. Coach John, who did he mention for his? He went with Tua, of course. Sleeper Tua at QB. Obviously, Tua didn't have the best game last week, but you get the Detroit Lions, who I know the Detroit Lions, as a Dolphins fans, do give up the fourth most fantasy points. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's a lie. They do. They give up the 4th most fantasy points to QBs this season here. It's expecting hopefully a week out from that first game back. The offense in the passing game does pick it up and ends up producing very high. So he's a pretty good sleeper too. What about a bust, Jibs? Who do you guys a QB bust this week?
Gonna go with Geno Smith, and he's been a godsend to some fantasy managers with QB issues early on this season, a la the Matthew Staffords, Aaron Rodgers of the world. And the last 2 weeks, he's just come down to earth. I don't know if it's just more difficult matchups and whatnot, but he's got 12 and 14 fantasy points. That's won't hurt you, but it's definitely not helping you. But the Giants give up the 14 fewest points to quarterbacks, but they're exceptionally good against wide receivers. I'm worried about him facing New York Giants potentially without DK Metcalf and a hobbled up Tyler Lockett. So if those two aren't like fit to go, I think he could be potentially in for a bad game. So that's why I'm down on Geno Smith this week.
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned about that, especially with the loss of DK. And then I think this team wants to get back to their old ways of running the ball a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens, So I definitely don't hate that one. So for my QB bust this week, guys, I went with Trevor Lawrence. T-Law has been very lucky over the last few weeks getting these rushing touchdowns to kind of keep him afloat because he's not really produced that well in the passing game. And while they're going to be in London, it seems like a home field advantage for the Jaguars at this point. The Broncos have allowed just 9.6 fantasy points per game. They actually haven't. They've only given up. Haven't given up a QB1 performance yet this season. So the likelihood that Trevor Lawrence and how inefficient he's been so far to finish the QB1 against a really strong team that hasn't allowed a QB1 at this point, I expect him to have a really bad day in fantasy. I mean, the Denver Broncos team is great at causing turnovers, pressuring the quarterback here, and Trevor Lawrence has just really not done much in the air, and they've played some pretty strong defenses. I expect this to continue. Trevor Lawrence, for me, is not a go for me. So, all right. Coach John, his guy was Aaron Rodgers. And I get that. Aaron Rodgers makes a ton of sense. He's dealing with a little finger injury right now in practice this week here. And they do play the Bills, who allow the third fewest fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season. Aaron Rodgers just looked really off overall, and it's just not been a great thing to see. So from Coach John, it's Aaron Rodgers this week. So,
I think it's working. Please do not skip.
You're good. You sound good to me.
All right, perfect. Good.
I'm back.
I'm back in action.
Let's go. We got him halftime. It's like the water boy. He's back.
Do you remember
Paul
when
Pierce
Bobby Boucher showed up at halftime and the Mud Dogs won the bowl, the Bourbon Bowl?
I love it. Let's go. All right. So, Coach John, we've gone through the quarterbacks already, but if you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers real quick as your QB bust, you can.
I mean, it's just kind of Aaron Rodgers is kind of the story himself. He's got no pass catchers. It looks like Allen Lazard is going to miss time. So I just don't want any piece of this offense. He's going to rely on guys like, Sammy Watkins and Romeo Doubs, and it just hasn't been pretty. So if you can avoid him, avoid Aaron Rodgers right now.
I like it. All right, cool. Let's head over to the tight ends now, guys. Coach John, you're first up, my friend. Who do you guys sleeper tight end?
My sleeper tight end is Irv Smith. Irv Smith has had 8+ points in the past 2 games. He's seen 4+ targets in 5 of his games this year. So he is getting a little bit of work. It's not great, but I think that the Cardinals is a great matchup. Second most points to the tight end position. So if they are going to be beat, I mean, I think it is run through Justin Jefferson for sure. But if there's a week where Irv Smith can get into the end zone, it's against Arizona. So I think you're going to get a good baseline of about 4 or 5 targets, 4 or 5 receptions, and then hopefully jumps in the end zone for you and you get yourself a 12+ point day.
Yeah, no, I like that one there a lot. I think Irv Smith, hopefully after the bye week, Minnesota has found more ways to get this guy more involved because he can be a difference maker for an offense. So, and it's a good matchup, so I like it. Coach Jibbs, what do we got?
Well, mine's definitely on sour because he's got injured in practice with a hamstring injury. I was going to go with Jawan Johnson.
Oh, did he? Oh, I don't like to hear that.
So, but anyway, let me tell you about him in case he plays. I came with the backup, so kudos to me. But he's been fantastic. The same thing as last week. There's going to be no Michael Thomas, potentially no Landry. It's Chris Olave season. All hail him. And like we saw last week, I recommend him as a sleeper. He had 2 touchdowns against the worst matchup, against the best matchup against tight ends. Las Vegas, they give up the 3rd most fantasy points thanks to Travis Kelce's 4-touchdown day, but they're averaging a touchdown a game or like 60-something yards. So you could fire him up. If he doesn't play, sneaky deep league tight end, New York Giants, Chris Myrick.
That's deep. That's a deep cut.
Very deep. Who are the Giants playing this week?
Seattle, who allows
the most receiving yards to tight ends per game. So
10 points.
Okay, boom. Wow, fire them up. Both of them.
Absolutely. I love that. That's a great sleeper play right there. Love them both. So for me, guys, my sleeper at tight end this week is Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant with David Njoku at least out this week, maybe more. Definitely opens up the door for the former fourth round pick. He's flashed at times this third and doing through his 2 seasons now at this point, or this is his 3rd season now. And David Njoku was averaging about 6 targets per game with Jacoby Brissett. And we all know Jacoby Brissett loves to throw to his tight ends. They don't have a ton of weapons there. So Harrison Bryant is an athletic, receiving kind of tight end that should be able to do things in this game against the Cincinnati Bengals, who do allow the 7th most yards to tight ends this coming season here. I expect this to be a game where, even without Jamar Chase, a game where the Bengals are ahead, which will force the Cleveland Browns to throw the ball more, and I think it could benefit Harrison Bryant. So for me, if you're looking for a sleeper tight end this week, it's Harrison Bryant.
I like that.
All right. Thank you. All right. And let's go to the negative side of things here. Do we have a bust at tight end? That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, my bust this week is Kyle Pitts. I feel like it's been repeated week in, week out, but I'm just gonna take the easy layup and say you should sit Kyle Pitts. To me, it's definitely it's a quarterback issue. I mean, they're just not throwing the ball. I mean, he's getting the target share, he's getting, all the things the advanced metrics you want to see. But if you're only going to throw the ball 17 times in a game, it doesn't matter. So it sucks. So in my opinion, until we see a change in philosophy, or maybe Desmond Ridder comes in and spices things up, I just think Kyle Pitts is a sit.
No, he's definitely been scaring me off that. So, Smokey the Cat, let's go. We got a trade here. What's up, guys? Traded Zeke, Monty, and Brandon Ayuk got AGB. Oh my God, absolutely fantastic trade.
Fantastic trade. Back up the Brinks truck.
Love that. Zeke's not even playing this week, so you get yourself a RB now to play at least this week. Monty is going to be in a split committee the rest of the season with Herbert. I mean, Brandon Ayuk is solid, but you get in AJ Brown, and then maybe Allen Robinson starts getting things going after their bye week now, get him more involved. So, I mean, that's a risk with Allen, but the rest, I mean, you're getting AJ Brown. And Najee has been solid. So great trade.
Mm-hmm.
Great trade. And Smokey learned a lot from you guys. Hey, appreciate that.
Smokey.
Love that. Yeah. Let's see. Does he show his team? Yeah. Oh, his team. Yeah, solid. Herbert, JJ. It's a good team. Wow.
No, Najee, Kelsey.
Oh, and you kept Clear Herbert too. I mean, that's awesome.
Oh my God.
Herbert, AJ Dillon. Yeah. You traded the right Bears running back.
Yes. I'm not even sure why that guy would even take that trade. Hey, I'll take it. Hey, take it, Smokey. Take it. All right. All right, Coach Gibbs, get to your tight end bust.
I'm going with George Brittle.
George Brittle. I love it.
And he's been electric over the last 2 games, but he'll go against his division rival, the Los Angeles Rams, who give up the fewest points to tight ends. They also bottled him up in week 2. He had 4.4 PPR points in that first meeting, and given the fact that it's a difficult matchup, and now Jimmy G has Christian McCaffrey, who will probably get more workload than he did last year. Ayuk's kind of coming on. We got to watch out for Debo, but I just think that he will get a different target volume that he's been accustomed to over the last 2 weeks or the last month. So I'm down on George Brittle. If he's your tight end, start him. But I'm just saying, don't think you're going to get another 20-point outing and whatnot.
I like it. Definitely a good play there. Definitely not. I've never been a fan of George Kittle. I love him as a football player, but just never in fantasy enough to ever have him on my teams. But it's whatever. All right. So let's go over to my tight end bust. I went Robert Tonyan. The Bills have just allowed one tight end to reach a tight end one kind of week. We saw that Tonyan kind of fell back to earth after his strong week 6 performance, and just over the last 2 games now, I mean, he's just been he's saying 5 targets over the last 2 weeks. Actually, he had a strong week 5. Over the last 2 weeks now, he's only seen 5 targets after that 10-target game, and definitely not something you want to see. And it just seems like even with Allen Lazard out, I don't know if he's going to see more targets. He could, but it seems like what we saw last week, that Aaron Jones is going to get back into this major offensive passing role, which I hope it does. And I think that Robert Tonyan just ends up having a really dud game unless he gets into the end zone this week. So for me, he is my tight end bust to go. All right. Let's get over to the RBs now, guys. Give me a sleeper RB, John.
My first sleeper RB is going to be Raheem Mostert. He's in a great matchup. He's, the Lions are giving up a ton of points to the running game. I think the other part of this is his snap percentage and snap share has steadily gone up over the past 5 weeks. He saw 71% snap share last week, which is a workhorse running back, and we need to start treating him as such. And so, he should see.
Oh
no.
You're muted, John. Oh no.
And he's out.
Oh no.
Let's cut the commercial break.
Commercial break. Actually, it's a perfect time to cut to a commercial break because it's a good time to talk about our sponsor. Because he's so excited, John can't even talk about the words of how great our sponsor is because he's so excited about him. It's No House Advantage, guys. No House Advantage is changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available today. You play in their pick'em contest versus other players and for a shot at winning $150,000 plus in cash. You download the app, you choose a contest, you select some player props, earn points for each correct pick, and you climb that leaderboard for a shot at the big money every day. I play it often. I win some money here and there. I love it. You can also test your skills versus the house and win 20 times your entry if you hit all your picks, which I have still not done yet, but I'm getting there. You bet up to 5 player props, over-unders, or individual player matchups across every major platform, every major sports league, including NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, and NASCAR. Sign up with the promo code COACHES at nohouseadvantage.com or download the app at the app stores to get your first deposit match up to $25. Help us out, guys. Have them be their sponsor for another month. We appreciate it. Again, make sure you check out No House Advantage today. Experience daily fantasy sports redefined because it's just not how you play, but it's also where you play. And you don't want to miss out this offer. Again, nohouseadvantage.com, promo code COACHES. Get the deposit match up to $25, guys. All right.
Great save, Coach Steve. That was a great save.
It was a perfect time to throw that in there, so I loved it. So great sponsor. But John, you're back. So tell us about your RB sleeper.
So yeah, you want my other one other than Raheem Mostert?
Were you done with Raheem Mostert?
I'm done. Yeah, I feel like the snap share and is going up, and like I said, it's going to be a great matchup against the Lions. So I think that he's probably due for another 100-yard game and hopefully a score. So I'm firing up comfortably as an RB1 in most formats.
Hey, don't got to argue with me, that's for sure. All right, Coach Jibbs, what do you got?
I'm going with D'Onta Foreman. And we saw last week he split touches with Chuba Hubbard, and he ended up going 118 rushing yards and 31 receiving yards as of Thursday. Chuba Hubbard's still not practicing with the ankle injury, so if he were to miss time, it would make Foreman a solid start for this upcoming week, and especially if he could get a bigger impact in some of the receptions, because PJ Walker is looking at DJ Moore for his first read, and then he's dumping it off 5 yards to the closest running back. So I think it's going to work out in his favor, and I'm loving D'Onta Foreman this week.
Yeah, no, definitely Devontae Foreman should be in for a really big workload, especially if Hubbard's out for sure. And the matchup's good too, so I like that one there a lot, Jibs. My first sleeper RB is Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson hasn't exploded yet, based off all the hype we've been giving him. Yet the season, it's actually a really bad flu for Devontae Adams. Jibs just got an update, just so you know.
Right, COVID.
Yeah, I hope it's not COVID. God bless. We haven't had a COVID case yet this year. That's a whole different story. That's a whole different topic. But he has that big run ability. Just really hasn't happened yet. He's seen 37 carries over the last 2 weeks. In a favorable matchup this week, the Colts allow the 9th most rushing yards this season here. Over the last 3 weeks, they've allowed 5 running backs to gain 50-plus yards. I think Robinson really gets things going today, and he ends up having his really first big game of the season here. 100 yards and a touchdown. Brian Robinson's going to be a nice top 15, top 20 play for you in fantasy. He's my sleeper RB this week. All right, John, back to you, my friend. Sleeper RB number 2.
So my second one, and this, I had this before I really realized how banged up Zeke was, but it's Tony Pollard. I think the reason why I picked Tony Pollard is we saw last week, how explosive he was. The yardage went to him. He had 12 touches and over 100 yards, which is amazing. But the other thing that's nice is the snap percentage. So, I tend to track backfields in those regards. So he got 63% of the snaps. So he's out snapping Zeke. And now maybe it was because Zeke was banged up, but that's not changing this week. Zeke is still banged up. So even if Zeke suits up, I'm totally comfortable with Tony Pollard as this, great RB2, high upside. He's one of those guys that doesn't need 20 touches to do a lot, like a Najee. He can do a lot with 10, 12 touches. We've seen it happen. And so the only reason why he didn't have a monster game is because he didn't get in the end zone and Zeke did. But I think this week changes and Tony Pollard will get in the end zone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love Tony Pollard this week, especially if Zeke's out. And I think it's from just sleeper status to RB2, sleeper status to RB1 this week.
If Zeke's out, fire him up 100%.
Absolutely. Cameron's back. He's got another question for us. Is there still any excitement for Jameson Williams? Been checking for updates almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw yesterday that Coach Campbell said he's out another month. So that would, I guess, put him out by week 12, hopefully. Yeah, there's absolutely excitement. He was an elite wide receiver coming in from the NFL draft. We haven't seen him in the NFL yet, but he was elite in college. He had that tremendous speed. I'd love to see guys like that come in the NFL. So definitely excited, but we're just gonna have to wait for it.
Yeah, it stinks getting that news in redraft because, you hung on to him this long, assuming you'd get him back soon. And then now it looks like another month away. But if you hung on to him this long, Dynasty, obviously you're keeping him. But if you hung on to him this long in redraft, I think you still just hang on to him to see what happens come playoffs.
Exactly. Coach Jibbs, you got a sleeper for us?
Oh, and going back to Jameson Williams, that was his original timeline when we were talking about him during the draft time. I just think because redraft and the season starts, we get too excited and all the coach speak. So
I do.
It is what it is, but it'll be a nice little Thanksgiving treat for us.
Ooh, I love it.
All right. And sleeper RB. Back to that. I'm gonna go with same game, Tyler Algier. And like Coach Sean says, yeah, the Falcons throw 13 times a game, so you know what they're doing. They're running the goddamn ball. And the Carolina Panthers give it the 13 most points to our running backs. Tyler Algier, since Cordell Patterson went down, has received double-digit carries. He's gotten at least 15 rush attempts over the last 2 weeks. But the only bad part is he's had a measly 3.3 yards per carry. But fortunately, Carolina gives up 4.3 yards per carry this season to running backs. If run is going to be their MO and Tyler Algier could get enough volume and fall in the end zone, he's definitely going to be a candidate for a good week.
No, definitely. I definitely like that one there too. Tyler Algier is definitely another good start. Also, stop buying low on Cordell Patterson. He should be back another week or two, so just keep that in mind. Hunter has a question for us. This is definitely interesting because we're talking about Ja'Marr Chase right now and everything that went down with today with him. So this is a good topic real quick to get into. Do I target Ja'Marr Chase here? I know he's out for a little bit, but my current record is 5-2. So for those teams who might be in championship form right now, who are really doing well at 5-1, 5-2, my main pieces are Pierce, ETN, Jets. I don't know who the Jets are. CeeDee Lamb, I'm assuming Hawkinson, Godwin, and Leonard Fournette. Still want to know who the Jets are.
If that's Jay Jettas, like Justin Jefferson, which I don't think it is. It could just be like the Jets defense, maybe.
Maybe Michael Carter or
it could be Michael Carter. Yeah, maybe.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can roll with Pearson, ETN rest of season, and Lenny is a good piece to trade away, And if you can turn Lenny into Ja'Marr Chase somehow, I would do that now. Yeah, it is Jay Jettas. Damn, I knew it. That's crazy. Yeah, if you could somehow get Jay Jettas and Ja'Marr Chase on the same team, you're in great shape.
Oh wow.
Trying to think. Well, assume he's gonna have a bye, so that's gonna. I don't know if do buys count as a week for IR, or do you have to actually play a game?
That's a good question.
They do count.
They do count.
I think so.
I have to look that up somewhere. I'm gonna find that out.
Yeah,
but
because you have to look at it like at this point you're 5-2. Even if you can go in the time that you trade for Ja'Marr Chase, even if you can win 2 out of those 5 weeks that you're missing them, right? You're still looking great to make the playoffs. And then you get Ja'Marr Chase back with Jay Jettas. Your team would be the team would be sick at wide receiver. And then you have Pierce and ETN, stable, explosive running backs. That'd be a good trade.
Trying to think. I mean, you've gone through, if you look at your team, you've gone through at least half your bye weeks already with half your team there. Pierce, Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson,
CeeDee Lamb.
Cowboys had a bye, right?
Yep.
Oh, they did. Okay, yeah. Week 6.
Hawkinson had his bye. You're good.
So it's really just Godwin and Pierce. I mean, I'm sure. I think there are later week buys, but yeah, I mean, I'm okay with making that trade. I don't think you're overpaying for that at all because I think Leonard Fournette has been really shaky this season, and I don't know if he's going to step up again and still be there. I mean, Rachaad White's getting more and more work each and every single week here, and if he starts producing more than Leonard Fournette, I don't think they'd make a hesitant switch to try to get this offense to keep going. I'll get back on track at least. So yeah, I mean, as long as your depth chart at running back is good enough to keep you afloat, I don't have any issues doing this. So, Jibs, you good with that? You're muted. He's good with it. All right, I like it. Cool. All right, Hunter. So we're good with it. It's not overpaying for sure.
No, I think that's a savvy move.
Just gonna have to wait on that. That's all. All right, so Jibs has just won, if I'm not mistaken here. So it is my turn to give my second RB sleeper, which is Latavius Murray. Hate to say that name out loud. I said Latavius Murray, he's heading to London. Got a London game. And he didn't have the big carries that he had in week 6, but he did able to score a touchdown in week 7, which is cool. Keep him afloat. But the Jags have allowed the 8th most fantasy points per game to running backs this season. And the Jags are easily able to give up a lot of passing to running backs this season. Murray had 3 targets this past week here. I think that with Russell Wilson's difficulties or injuries currently right now, that's what I wanted to use. It might be a lot more dunk off passes here. And it just seems like this Broncos team just doesn't trust, Melvin Gordon. The target share was 51-39 this past week. Again, that's still, to me, pretty close, honestly, for a guy who's been on the team for a while compared to a guy who was there 2 weeks now. I think Murray has an opportunity to end up as a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 if he gets the workload, and I think he will. And I think this team will be ahead. They're going to run the ball and play good defense to beat this Jags team real quickly and get out of London as fast as they can. So for me, Latavius Murray is my sleeper RB number 2 now.
Murray loves London. This is his second game this year.
Oh, does he? Oh, funny,
yeah, he played with the Saints.
Oh, he did. He did well with the Saints, too. He did very well.
Yeah, so he's about to tear it up.
So let him do it again. He had like 71 yards and a touchdown or something. So, yeah, let him do it again. All right, so let's go to some RB bust here. John, what do you got as an RB bust?
My first RB bust is David Montgomery. I think he salvaged his day against the Patriots with a touchdown, but it was really if you watched the game, it was really Khalil Herbert that was making plays and making big runs and really explosive. Montgomery was still getting his typical work, but it wasn't, the explosiveness you want to see. So now that his snap share has gone down, he's not explosive. We know that he's going to get vultured on the goal line from, Justin Fields. I just think, to me, Montgomery is shaping up to be this really plodding, meandering, get you 8 points, 10 points running back, which, my philosophy, and we've talked about on the show all the time, is like, that does me no good. If it's like, it's safe and it feels nice to know, like, I'm guaranteed between 7 and 10 points, but it's like, that doesn't help you win a week, where I would much rather have, start your guys like your Tony Pollard, your Raheem Mostert, these guys that can really have a big blow up game. So I'm sitting Montgomery everywhere I can. And Cowboys are a tough defense to run against. They're second fewest points to the running back in the NFL. So I don't see a big game coming out of David Montgomery.
Yeah, neither do I. That's for sure. Definitely a bad matchup overall. We got Albert in here. Would you guys start Tony Pollard or Raheem Mostert? Both your sleepers there, I believe.
That's a tough one.
Tough one. Half point PPR. Which side are you guys on? Just assume that Zeke is out already.
I'm assuming Zeke is out.
He's probably going to be out. I don't think he's playing this week. I think it is going to be Tony Pollard show. So Tony Pollard show or Raheem Mostert versus a very, very bad Lions run defense.
I'd probably Tony Pollard. Oh, that's so tough though, because the Lions defense is so
probably
bad.
Why he's asking.
The Lions defense is so bad. I'll be honest. I would try a way, see if there's a way you can get both of them in your lineup somehow. Start one as your RB2 and the other one as your flex, maybe. Because I do think that they're both both in line for good games. So, but if I had to, man, Mostert's been hot lately too. Shoot, I guess I'd probably stick with Pollard. I'm gonna stick with my gut says Pollard.
Jibs.
I'm so torn.
This is a
Because
hard-
I love the free spaces with the matchup though. Like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go Mostert. Like, I think he could get 20 rush attempts, and then like, I don't know, who are the Cowboys playing?
Bears.
Bears.
I'm gonna go Mostert.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on the same page with you, Jibs. I mean, I think both are good plays. So whatever way you decide to go, you should be fine. But for me, it's Mostert. The run game for the Lions have been dreadful this season here, and Mostert has ran very, very well this season. The only thing about the Bears is that, Ramondre Stevenson, he got like a top 5 RB1 performance, but it wasn't because he ran well. The Bears held him to like 35 yards on like 15 carries. It was a very bad rushing day. He just happened to score and got 8 catches. Now, if Tony Pollard gets 8 catches, then you're set. But is he going to get 8 catches? He could, but you have to rely on the catches. That Raheem Mostert is going to see 15 carries in this game here and should run very well because he has all season, and it's a good matchup. So for me, it's Mostert. That's the way I lean, but you do what you got to do. That's what I always say. Where are we at now? Jibs, your bust at RB.
My first bust is gonna be Michael Carter, and I do have shares, and I am going to start him just because I'm just like in a lock. I really can't drop someone and can't add someone. So just lower your expectations. And he's going to get the Patriots, 7th fewest fantasy points. They were like the top dog last week till David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, and the Bears just ran all over him like roadkill. I'm still confident that this defense is top tier and legit. So like, I don't think Michael Carter, even with the case of Saleh saying like they may go with a hot hand approach to the running back too. So he could get all the volume he wants, but I think this Pats defense is going to be stiff against the Jets. They came off this terrible loss on Monday Night Football, and they own the Jets. So I think it's like kind of pointing in for a sour week, even though like the projections on the website are telling you like locked and loaded, like 13 points, 13 half PPR points. So like his projections are high, but don't be fooled. I think he could be still susceptible to having a bad game.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a good performance from Michael Carter at all this week, honestly.
Is there any word about James Robinson playing this game? I haven't heard.
It should be. I don't expect him to not play. I mean, it's just how much he plays is going to be the bigger question. So.
Right.
So. Run straight.
It's true. It's one-dimensional with the James Robinson game script.
100%. All right. So for my bust at RB this week, it's Kareem Hunt. With all the rumors that the Browns might trade him, it might be a good time to not play him, the Browns. So you probably shouldn't play him either. He's, seen the ball 12 times over the last 2 weeks now after averaging 10 carries and 3 targets a game. And I mean 12 times. I mean, he's combined carries and targets over the last 2 weeks. It's been 12. So that's a big downgrade from what he's been doing prior to that. It's a tough matchup. The Bengals are 5th best versus running backs this season here. And just overall great versus RBs. He's not been that great this season. For me, it is going to be a bust for him.
I just needed 2 more points from his ass, and I would have got another point last week.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Scored a touchdown, though, so good non-PPR.
Kept him alive enough, yeah. If that touchdown, it was like 2 points on the day.
Oh, it was horrible.
Oh, yeah, baby.
All right. Let's get over to the wide receivers now. John, give me a sleeper wide receiver.
A sleeper wide receiver, and it's not, it's DJ Moore. This is not the most comfortable sleeper wide receiver pick I've ever had. He got PJ Walker throwing the ball. I think the game against the Bucs was a little bit of a facade. I think that was more just the Bucs being terrible than it was the Panthers being, exceptional. But DJ Moore did see 10 targets, which is great. They were going against Atlanta, who's 32nd, literally dead last against wide receivers. So if there is a game for him, if he is going to get 10 plus targets from PJ Walker and there is a game for him to go over 100 yards, it's probably this one. Again, I would hope for a big DJ Moore game. And then if I had him, I'd be looking to ship him off and flip him for something else. But I think this week you can put him in your lineup and feel comfortable as like a low end too.
Yeah, I like that. I think he's gonna have another solid week overall. So I like that. Shibs, you got me a sleeper wide receiver.
Oh, wow. Brandon Cooks, and he's coming. You drafted him as your third, maybe second wide receiver, and he's just falling. But I do like his matchup this week against the Titans. They give up the third most points. On average, wide receivers collectively are able to get 200 receiving yards per game, 1.5 touchdowns. With Nico Collins banged up with his groin injury, this should pave the way for Cooks to get a little bit more volume, and hopefully he catches his second touchdown in the year. So I'm feeling Brandon Cooks this week. Not that I like it, but it is what it is.
All right. I like Brandon Cooks. Hopefully he gets bounced back because it's been bad. Hopefully he gets traded. That would be even better. But we'll see what happens there. Davis
Too bad Nico Collins is banged up because that's probably gonna make him hesitate.
Sure. Yeah, they want to stay somewhat competitive. Just tank it. Get yourself a better quarterback. Davis Mills is obviously not the answer at this point. Maybe he needs players. I don't know.
They need a lot.
Yeah, definitely on the defense too. So we'll see. So for my wide receiver sleeper, I went with Drake London. I've been pretty much off Drake London the last 3 weeks, and there's been a good reason why for it. And he's been a bust every single time I picked him as my bust. But the Panthers give up the 12th most fantasy points to wide receivers this season. They've allowed a wide receiver to gain 80 yards in 4 of the last 5 games here now. I think this is a game where the passing offense kind of gets back on track a little bit, and it becomes more of a both teams needing to throw the ball a little bit to stay alive in this game. And I think Drake London ends up having this good week back for me. So I'm going to call him as my sleeper wide receiver. All right. You have another one there, John.
I do. So my second wide receiver sleeper is Tyler Lockett. And the things I like about Tyler Lockett, because Tyler Lockett has always been a boomer bust play, but 5 out of the last 6 weeks, he's had 10 plus fantasy points. So now he's created a little bit of a floor in his game. And I think without DK Metcalf, I think there's like conflicting rumors that DK is going to play all of a sudden. And I don't think that happens. So I think you're going to have Tyler Lockett with another week where he's the man. He's going to see 8, 9, 10 targets. And it's not a great matchup, but if you're going to see that type of volume, you're going to take your shots. He's the guy. I don't think Marquise Goodwin is going to be a 2 touchdown every week kind of play. I think that's, because Tyler Lockett was a little hobbled. If Tyler Lockett can go into this game, get his typical 8, 10 targets, you could see a big performance with upside. You're getting this a little bit of a floor at 10 points because he's done it 5 out of the last 6 games. And then hopefully it's one of those big Tyler Lockett games. He's the type of player where it's one play, it's a 60-yard bomb, and Tyler Lockett's to the house. So I know those plays haven't necessarily been there since like week 2 or 3, but I think this is without DK, this is a good time for him to bounce back.
Well, we'll talk about Tyler Lockett again in a little bit. So, but that's John Sleeper, a wide receiver. So, as much as I'll say, Jibs, give me another wide receiver sleeper.
I'm gonna hang off the ledge on this one, guys. This is just for shits and giggles, so don't take me hilariously or don't fling no tweets at me. But Elijah Moore, Corey Davis is banged up, guys, and I think the Jets will find it hard to run to the ground against this Patriots stiff run defense. So I think there's going to be a market correction. I think Zach Wilson and the Jets coaching staff will probably want to get this guy involved a little bit more than he has been utilized this season, and hopefully he could end up breaking the flex territory. But I like Elijah Moore's outlook for this week. Something in my gut just says so.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I don't have any shares of him. I realize that now. I thought I had all these shares of him, and I have none. So, yeah, definitely not the best. But, yeah, hopefully he does bounce back. I do like Elijah Moore a lot. All right. For my second wide receiver sleeper, I went with Tre'Quan Smith from the New Orleans Saints. Over the last, I think Michael Thomas and Landry are both going to be out another week here. And Smith has been decent. 8 fantasy points each time over the last 2 weeks here now. And this is another shot for a starting gig for him. And the Raiders allow the 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Now, if Andy Dalton can have another big day, like I mentioned before, and a potential shootout matchup here, I think it could be. I think Tre'Quan could get himself another 60 yards and a touchdown. So for me, he is my sleeper number 2 at the wide receiver position. So, all right, we got another question here from Kyler. Please help me. Full point PPR. Dave Montgomery. I can't talk today. Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard. I'm assuming Latavius Murray. Pick 2. What 2 do you guys have?
I'm taking Jones and Pollard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for
100%.
sure.
That was easy one. Jones and Pollard, Kyle. And then next one, Chris Godwin, Tyler Boyd, Tyler Lockett, pick 1.
Oh man.
Do you play Godwin tonight or do you play Boyd?
That's the question. I think probably
Boyd.
I mean, Boyd is so
he's productive and now has more potential for targets. I'm going Boyd.
When he hits, he hits, and that's just who Tyler Boyd always is. Yeah, I think I would probably, because you got Diggs, so you get kind of some security and guaranteed points there. I would go for the upside of Tyler Boyd hitting on a big play. Yeah, other than Godwin tonight, that Bucs offense just doesn't excite me like it should.
Mm-hmm. I'm going Boyd, Godwin, then Lockett. Those would be my 3 in that order. And then for the tight ends, definitely Waller if he suits up.
Robert Tonyan or Evan Ingram.
It'll be Ingram regardless. Tonyan, I'm not touching against the Bills.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So Ingram for sure. And then obviously if Waller doesn't play, then I guess Tonyan, but preferably Waller.
Mm-hmm.
As a second play.
Picks 1 and flex any of them though.
Oh,
so I think pick 1 and then 1 flex. So I think what he's asking is, yeah. So then I would play Godwin and then flex Boyd and then play Ingram at your tight end.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
If I'm reading that correctly, so I would go
right.
Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, Godwin as your wide receiver, flex Boyd, and then Evan.
Oh, you said flex any RB wide receiver or tight end. So all of them outside the end you clicked. So.
I still would probably flex Boyd in that situation just because he has more upside than Monty or Murray.
Yeah, so I think we can gratefully say that you start Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, Chris Godwin, Tyler Boyd, and Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
That's what we're all going to go with here. That's what we all like this week. Hopefully that works for you, Kyle. All right. So let's get over to a wide receiver bust here now at this point. John, what do you got?
So my first wide receiver bust is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin had a decent day last week, but he's going against the Colts, who's number 1 against wide receivers. And they've only allowed 2 wide receivers to score 13 plus fantasy points this entire season. So if you think that there's going to be a big game, and you think you're going to get 100 yards and a score, you think you're going to get 75 yards and a score, I just don't think it's happening this week with Terry McLaurin. I think the Colts are beatable on the ground, so they're going to have to run the ball. So, I just temper expectations. Starting Terry McLaurin, I understand you might be stuck in a situation with bye weeks or whatever, injuries, and you have to, and I get it. He's worth starting, but I just don't see a day where he has more than 10 points for fantasy.
All right. And Kyle, thank you for the sub. We much appreciate it. Love that. We're on every Thursday, Monday and Thursday around 5:30 p.m. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes. Jibs, give me your wide receiver bust.
I'm going to go with Christian Kirk this week, and he got his fantasy output saved on that final drive against the Giants. Kirk should be on a similar roller coaster this week facing the Denver Broncos. They only allowed 1 touchdown to a wide receiver so far this season. And over the last 3 games, only 1 wide receiver is able to top 60 yards receiving. Kirk's going to need the volume to be a viable option this week against that stiff secondary that the Denver Broncos deploy. And we saw last week that Trevor Lawrence isn't afraid to spread the ball out. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk is bottled up and he tries to go elsewhere. But he should probably, in theory, have the better matchup since he plays in the slot primarily. But still, I'm not really high on him this week.
All right. I don't hate it. I like it.
Yep.
Good pick there.
You could go against Coach Sean this week. I was not doing that.
Definitely not. All right. So for my one and only bust here, I'm going Tyler Lockett. As John picked him as a sleeper this coming week. So for me, Tyler Lockett has put up combined 10 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks against, I would say, not as tough of a matchup they are playing this week. I know that DK is not possibly playing, apparently now, and that the targets might come his way, John. I get that all, but the Giants are good against wide receivers, third best in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that this is a team that's going to get back to running the ball more. We see Kenneth Walker just flipping off ladies on the side there. He's ready to run.
That picture goes so hard.
I wanted to put it as one of my like league things, and I couldn't get it. I was so mad. I have to it has to be a link or something. But yeah, I'm just not buying it. Like I said, one of you guys had Geno Smith as a bust this week. I think that works in with Tyler Lockett this week. It's not a great week to start Tyler Lockett. It hasn't been their efficiency. And I think DK didn't even play the whole game last week. So Tyler Lockett didn't really see an intake of more of targets or anything like that or production. So for me, Tyler Lockett is just, to me, I'm trying to stay away from him this week. And that's what I'm going to play.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a risky, it is a risky start with Tyler Lockett. I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, he's a smash play. Like it's, you're still betting on Geno Smith. You're still betting on, them to figure, this offense to figure it out without DK. And I think you're right. The emergence of Kenneth Walker is a thing because he can rip off big runs and end drives in an instant. And so it is scary starting Tyler Lockett, but I'm riding with it.
I'll say and preach. All right. We got another question here. Gus Edwards or Brian Robinson? Obviously, Gus is playing tonight or Brian Robinson on Sunday. I'm going to stick with Brian Robinson for me. Gus was questionable coming into this game. That concerns me slightly a little bit. I know usually good running backs do well on Thursday, but I'm going to stick with Brian Robinson and that production he's been giving us, even though Gus had 16 carries.
Yeah, I think, I think so. I think you're going to beat if the Washington Commanders are going to be in this game and they're going to beat the Colts at all, their only chance is on the ground. I don't think they're going to beat them through the air with Tyler Heineke. So, a lot of handoffs, a lot of dump offs to Brian Robinson. Hopefully he gets in the end zone and he can put up, RB2 numbers for you.
Right. Jibs? Oh, you're muted, my friend.
I'm tempted to go Gus, just on a whim though. Like I think Brian Robinson has a lot more competition in the backfield, and it seems like Gibson got more usage than I expected last week. 10 carries, got a lot of receptions. Like I don't think they're going to be doing that much catching the ball. They're kind of even, but like Tampa Bay's run defense is kind of reeling, so. It's kind of weird going on a Thursday player, but you also could be safe and sound and start Robinson as well on Sunday. So I don't know. I'll go with the other coaches. Be Robinson.
I think both. The answer is both are probably low end RB2s. And I just would feel I don't know. Gus coming off this ACL injury, first game back. His snap share wasn't huge, and he just really had 2 touchdowns that propped his day up. And so I just think that there is a world that, like, everyone rushed to grab Gus Edwards off waivers. And I love him. I love Gus Edwards rest of season. He's going to be fine. But, short week, it could be tough. It could be tough on the ACL.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. That was a good question there. Do we have any final questions? If you have a final question. Oh, here we go. We have one more from Cameron. Where do you guys want to see Kareem Hunt end up?
I just tweeted it out. I want to see him on the Rams. Bad.
Yeah, I saw that too. The Rams probably the best destination for him.
There's some rumors circulating in NFL circles that he could be a Ram, and I would love it. I think that'd be a great spot for him.
Howie Roseman has entered the chat. Sorry.
He's entered the chat for Alvin Kamara.
That's another one I heard too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which would be
okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be insane. I'm hoping for some good trade deadlines. We'll try to do if there's an episode we need to do between that, we might do that. So, but yeah, definitely good question, Cameron. So, any final questions? We're gonna wrap things up tonight, guys. If not, Coach John, anything you want to say?
Go Tyler Lockett. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say.
All right, Coach Jibs.
Gotta run.
Got it, Jib.
All right, you guys kept it short and sweet. I'll try to do the same. Probably not. But as always, guys, thank you all for listening. Thanks we have a new person tuning in. Kyle, thanks you. Appreciate that. Cameron, always love having you in here. We'll be back on Monday, guys, doing starts and sits. Not starting and sits, waiver wire pickups. As always, please go check out our website at www.thefantasycoaches.com. We got our rankings. We have articles. We have our podcast up there. If you want to follow us over on Twitter for all of our content shout out, that's over on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. Please give us a a sub here on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Anywhere you could find us, please give us a helping hand here. And we appreciate you guys all tuning in once again. Hopefully, you guys' week 8 goes with a blast compared to week 7. And we'll be back Monday, guys. So thanks for listening. Take care and have a good one.